Hi guys, welcome back. So New Zealand lose to Argentina 25-15. An amazing performance from Argentina. It really was. The heart and soul they poured into that game. They deserved every bit of the win. 25-15, one of the greatest performances in Argentinian history for sure. So huge kudos to them. Yes, the title of the video is how to beat the All Blacks, because now this is a few losses for the All Blacks. We saw a big one against England in the World Cup. Australia came close in the draw, then beat the All Blacks, and now we've got the biggest shock really, which is Argentina beating the All Blacks. And this is extra big because they've never ever beaten the All Blacks, and that's absolutely huge. So are there some weaknesses in this All Black team? I'm not All Black bashing in this video at all. It's just interesting, being the most successful team in world rugby history, they're always going to be talked about. And that's a blessing and a curse really. One of the things New Zealand have going for them and against them is this aura of invincibility, this intimidation aura that I think is, to be fair, has gone a little bit, to be fair, because if you lose a few games that does go. But what is true is every team that plays New Zealand, it's like their final, it's like their World Cup final. I mean, England, for as well as they played against New Zealand, subconsciously that kind of was their final, and then they couldn't lift themselves and South Africa smashed them in the final. This game against Argentina, this was everything for Argentina. They would literally have chopped their arm off to play this game, and the New Zealand players just didn't quite show the same intensity. Sure, every time they put on a New Zealand shirt, of course they want to do well, but it just wasn't up to the level that Argentina wanted to do well. But is there a problem in the quality of the player of New Zealand? Well, I'd say absolutely not, and the proof we've had is Super Rugby Aotearoa, which I think was probably the greatest single domestic league competition I've ever seen in rugby. The quality was unbelievable, the pace was unbelievable. The players were coming out of it recently saying, it was just so intense, it was so physical, I couldn't play that sort of league every single year because it was so high quality. So what have teams done to beat New Zealand recently? Well, relentless physicality, huge tackles, amazing defensive organisation. Against Argentina today, there was just no way through. Players who are used to going through gaps, maybe Caleb Clark, etc. Goodness me, they tackled him well, and other players well, and it was absolutely relentless for the full 80. Now, in the past, when New Zealand have won games, is often they'd be in a dogfight for 60 minutes. They'd be absolutely scrapping, but then maybe teams' fitness would drop a bit and the quality and skill of the New Zealanders would come through and they'd get a tight win. And that definitely didn't happen in this game. It didn't happen in the England game or against Australia. So our team's actually just getting a bit fitter, and it's going to be harder to win games in the last 20 minutes. I don't know, that's a point for you to comment on. But Argentina were contesting everything, all the rucks, all the scrums, all the line-outs. They were making life so hard for New Zealand, who probably just looked like they wanted to play rugby, show their skill, score some great tries, and weren't quite as dedicated to the slog as Argentina were. They were forcing tackles, they were looking for breaks, they weren't really grinding Argentina down. And in the end it was too late. There wasn't enough time to change. So this test match mentality that New Zealand had grown over the Hansen years has gone a bit, for sure. I mean, you look back at the scores of New Zealand teams under Hansen, they'd often win games, very close games towards the end, when they'd be in a dogfight, grind it out, and like I said, just win it at the end. Well, not luck, but that's how they came through. And you look at players they had, in, say, in the back row, Kano, McCaw, they're not flash players. They weren't in there for their skill and their 30-metre skip passes. They were in there for their dogfight, the guts, the physicality. And New Zealand just need to maybe get back to that a bit, maybe select a bit cleverer. Retallick coming back in is going to help. Maybe Boscher is the type of player they want as well. But of course they're going to have to stick with some of these youngsters and build this test match experience. And New Zealand were getting flustered. They clearly were getting flustered, getting frustrated, and that hard edge wasn't quite there from the experience of grinding through test matches, because it's a fairly new team. Kind of summarised by Rieko Ioane. Sure, loads of people are going to say lots about him. I haven't been sure about his attitude, diving in with one hand and dropping it. and then continuing to dive in like that. I was like, not so sure. And then there was one incident that really summarised it, when the ball was literally loose at Rico Ioane's feet and he just wanted it to bounce up into his hand, and Argentina came back from miles back and just dived on it like their life depended on it. Kind of sums it up. Forcing passes away as well, compared to, say, someone like Matera, who was just dogging and fighting, an absolute beast. Anyway, you've still got to be on fire to beat New Zealand. This is not saying New Zealand are a poor side, poor players at all. Argentina were at their best. Australia and England had to be at their absolute best to beat New Zealand. And that's what New Zealand are going to get every single time. Like I said, it's the curse of being, known as the best and the benchmark for everyone else. And they have to hit every single match like it's their last. And to be fair, in the past they've done that and have had huge runs of unbeaten games. So where next? Well, Foster is definitely under pressure, and he looks like a man under pressure. It's not so much that he's looking angry that his team has lost and disappointed. He really is looking and sounding like the pressure's getting into him a bit, which is understandable because it's probably the most high pressure job in world rugby, because the expectation is high, win or nothing. And in the background, you've got Robertson kicking around, incredibly successful domestic coach, probably rubbing his hand, waiting for an opportunity. But I'm sure he'll be given some time to turn this around, but not forever, for sure. They missed the edge, like I said. What's the team of the future? They've got to find their team of the future and then stick with it and develop this test match mentality, grow the experience. Maybe just say, right, so Toto, you are the 8. Let's just grow your experience. Unbelievable talent, needs some experience. In the back line, maybe you say, okay, Will Jordan, the next Smith, Ben Smith, in you come, you're fullback, and then Mwanga or Bowden Barrett, you fight it out for the 10 slot and stick at it. So they're probably going to have to find their young team and stick at it, find their edge. What they've got going for them is an amazing player base, and they know where they need to improve. It's pretty clear, it's not unambiguous. So still a great team, but a few losses, some questions to be asked. What a game that was, and big up Argentina. That was just epic, wasn't it? Anyway, guys, please put your comments below, constructive comments below like you always do. And until next time, I will see you then.